we went out to lunch and they took fucking forever. And it's like,
yeah.
Like, I don't care who put in what order when. We have a baby who's obviously over it.
I get priority, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Bring me my tacos. Like, not only this, I have drinking 32 ounces of beer at this point. I got a cranky baby, and I'm loaded up with beer. So bring me my fucking tacos.
I wish there was a way to make a shirt out of that, because I would wear it, and I would obviously get you one.
My baby's over it, and I'm loaded up with beer, so bring me my fucking tacos.
But it has to be in the voice that you just did it in, too. You're putting this on YouTube, by the way, right?
Oh, yeah, we are not cutting that part. Yeah, we just went to a sweet Mexican restaurant that serves you 32 ounces of beer for $5. What is wrong with them? They can charge more, guys. I will pay more. El Ranchero, I will pay more. Dude, we had all of us, Kate, me, and the baby, with alcohol, $25. What the fuck? Anyway, this isn't about.
I'm in the wrong. I live in the wrong city.
This isn't about delicious Mexican food.
Wait, before we even do that, podcast. Can I tell a good baby story? Because you're gonna.
Dude, drop it. Let's do this.
Okay. So the other day I come home from work and I feel like ass. I have a bad headache and it's just like my head just feels like it's slowly expanding. So Amanda picked Kent up from daycare. She brings him home.
Nice.
And he comes in jibber jabber and running, and the dog gets all excited when everyone comes home because that's when we all go for a walk. I'm like, can you take him for a walk? I just want to lay down. So we're trying, and like literally, like everyone is just like tripping and falling all over each other. I crouch down to give Kent a hug, and my giant werewolf dog, Mr. Freeze, headbutts Kent in the chin, and his jaw clacks. You know, it wasn't bad. I watched it happen. He didn't get hurt, but he's 2, so he started crying and screaming. So I scooped him up because I'm a caring father and an empathetic human being. And I held him to my chest. And I always forget that when he cries this hard, he flails. So I pick him up and he's screaming. And I say, what happened? Even I saw it. What happened? I'll kiss it. Where do you want me to kiss? So he points at his chin and he's screaming and he gets that silent part of the scream. I don't know if Sammy does this when he's screaming. And then that's when the flailing starts. And he kicks me with like Danielson accuracy in one ball. Just directly in one ball. And it's been a while since I got hit there good. Like he hits me there and stands on it often, but usually it's off just a hair, so it's okay.
Yeah, I get kicked in the nuts like once a week, and my nuts are steel. I mean, they're steel at this point, galvanized
on me. And like you can kind of roll with it, right? Like that's a dad skill I think you need to develop. That's an evolutionary trait. But he got it so good. I'm standing in the entranceway of my front door.
I'm used to getting my balls busted. This is fine. This is fine.
Wife and kids, you know what I mean? But it was so hard, so unexpected, and it was just he couldn't have kicked one ball any more directly.
So that you started screaming, you're like, and then you got to the silent part and you're like, and then you started flailing.
I'm flailing.
And you kicked him in the balls.
I fell to the floor like just a sack of rocks, just boom. But like, again, because I'm a great father, I held him so he didn't get crushed. We fell to the floor, and as I hit on my side, I opened my arms so he rolled out, laughing maniacally the entire time because he had no idea why that was happening, but loved it. He gets up and he is laughing. Amanda's yelling from the other room because she heard me go down. So what happened? I'm like, he kicked me. I can't breathe.
No, but you got to do it in the voice. He kicked me. I can't breathe.
I couldn't.
Just like 8 octaves higher, baby.
So it was one of those, like, it took the wind out of me, and I knew I was going to be sick afterwards, but I wasn't there yet. So now I'm sitting up like crisscross, and I'm holding myself, and Kent, like, looks over and realizes that I'm hurt. And he comes over, and he puts his hands on my shoulder, and he's like, Daddy, okay? Daddy, you okay? You okay, Daddy? You happy now? And I think he realizes that he is the one that hurt me. So now he starts to feel bad. He's rubbing my face, and like my balls feel like they are just like The only thing I can describe it is like when Blade kills a vampire and they like explode into fiery
sparks,
dust.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I feel like is happening to my entire reproductive situation. And I'm holding on to it, and he comes over and he's rubbing my shoulder and rubbing my face in like a really, really caring, mature gesture. And he's like, Daddy, you okay now? You okay? I said, I'll be okay, buddy. He goes, I kiss your boo-boo? So like I am in so much pain and I am having trouble breathing, but now this little motherfucker makes me start laughing and I can't control. I was like, yeah, buddy, can you kiss my boo-boo? And I pointed at my knee. So he made a huge show out of like, mwah! You okay now? And I'm like, thanks, buddy. You're gonna be only child now because of this little ordeal.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
at least it was worth it for your joke.
We'll always remember it because you told it on the podcast. Daddy, you okay? Daddy, don't talk about this on podcast, okay?
You okay? Oh, he's into the podcast now too because
Good.
I wore the shirt and he's interested in the logo.
Yeah.
And he also like understands that podcast is when I talk to you with the microphones.
Yeah.
So like Amanda will be like, all right, he's going to go podcast now. Daddy podcast? Daddy talk on the radio show? Daddy podcast?
Sammy loves the microphones and she'll go, ooh, like a monkey. I'm like, yeah. So today we do the bouncing Sammy where I bounce her up and down, throw her in the air and stuff. And we were bouncing and my arms got tired because after 5 minutes of bouncing, my shoulder workout's done. I got my reps in and she lays her head on my chest in the sweetest fashion. And I was like, oh, this baby's so sweet. And then she jumps one more time, just right into my nose, just straight into my nose. My eyes are watering. I'm seeing stars. I'm just like, ah. My wife's like, what happened? I was like, she just like head butted me like I could be dead now. She just like right nose bone into my skull. Daddy's dead. The end. Oh, anyway, welcome to the Launch Dad Podcast. Yeah, welcome to the Launch Dad Podcast. I'm Aaron. So yeah, we got some stuff to talk about, guys. Follow us on social media. Tell us your kids' stories, but also tell us what like goofy nerd shit you want because we need more nerd content.
If you guys have hung out with us for this long on this episode, we're not going to talk about this. Cute, adorable, hilarious baby shit the whole time. We're going to talk about stupid, bad movies.
Oh, we got man, we have.
It's worth it. If you made it through that stupid shit with our kids, now the real meat of this meal is coming.
I thought it was hilarious when he told his kid to kiss his balls.
For the record, I did not tell him that.
No, kissed his knee. It was really sweet. Yeah, we are talking about Majorettes, which is one of the weirdest, horriblest, gold standard or shitty movie. Like this was mwah, mwah, mwah. Oh, just like, oh, you need a group of people and you need to watch this on Tubi now. Anyway, Majorettes, hit us up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at LaunchpadPod, and our website, launchpadpod.com. Check us out on YouTube because we are going to be really animated about this because I am excited to watch this shit and it was ridiculous. So let's get into it. Launchpad Podcast.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, welcome to the Launchpad Podcast. I'm Aaron.
Matt.
Today we have a movie that gets more off topic than I think we have ever done, and we are prone to it. You and I are so prone to getting off topic. Like at the beginning of this episode, we're like, let's talk about this shitty movie and our kids for 10 minutes. Yeah. This movie, okay, it's called Majorettes. What year did this come out, Matt? Do you remember?
86.
This came out in 86 from Pittsburgh.
And it was one of those that like they made it and it got theatrical distribution overseas first, never really made it into theaters here. But then, there was a big booming horror VHS market back then. So that's where it kind of, I won't say made it, but that's where it ended up.
So the person who wrote this also wrote the novel of Majorettes.
Yes.
And he also wrote Night of the Living Dead, co-wrote. He's one of the people credited with being involved with Night of the Living Dead. And there's a couple other Night of the Living Dead people in this. Johnny from the first 10 minutes. They're coming to get you, Barbara. He plays a creepy pastor in this. And one of the police guys is played by the first zombie we see who attacks. You know, he's a famous guy, also seen in Zombie Nosh. If you know.
He is the first zombie that we see is the director of Majorettes.
Yes, he's also in the movie as one of the shitty cops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of those that, like, the more I watched it, it was crazy. And then for the show, I started to research it. And there's not as much on it as I would have thought. But what was there was like, well, let me just say, I watched this like 2-3 months ago, and I told you about it. Like, dude, this is one for the books. You got to check it out. And you were like, okay. And I was like, no. Without telling you why, I don't want to give it away, but you need to watch it because it's fucking bonkers. And even like yesterday, when you said you were going to watch it, it sounded like you're like, oh, I'll get to it today and tomorrow and stuff. But now that not only did we decide to do this episode just about that, but you seem so into it, I am validated is the wrong word, but I'm so jazzed that you're on the same page of like bonerosity with me as this movie.
So you and I both love shitty movies. We love shitty movies, but I think you love shitty movies more than I do, to the extent that you will give a shitty movie a better like chance than I will. Like the shitty movie has to be right, man. There is a slim avenue. There is a tightrope, you know, that you have to walk for that to be that good to me. And there are very few that do it. Like, you know, a movie like, say, Chopping Mall is one of my favorite shitty movies.
Sure.
Not that bad. In all honesty, it's a crappy movie, but it's one of the best crappy movies you get. This movie's straight up bad, okay? Like,
oh yeah,
objectively garbage, but I was laughing hysterically throughout it because there's moments where people like be talking to each other and that they will pause for a really long time, and you're like, wait, did you forget your lines? Are there more lines? And then the scene will cut, and you're like, oh, that was the end of the scene, and they didn't know. Like, the second they stop saying their lines, their character stops as well. If they had any character, they're just like deadpan. Silence. What?
And there was definitely a couple of those cuts where, like, they finished their line, the action was cut, and they shot a couple more seconds so that you had enough to edit with, but then they made the cut, like the visual cut in the actual film, 2 or 3 seconds after all dialogue had stopped, and everyone is just standing there.
All right. Let me give you this list, because I wrote a list that every time a new plot thread was introduced, I wrote it down. Here's the list, okay? And we'll get into some of these, but here's the list. Starts with majorettes, women who are in the marching band who throw the baton. That's a majorette, in case you didn't know. Starts with majorettes. Then we have a peeping Tom. Then there's an evil nurse. There's some trust money involved. There's a vegetable grandmother. Teen pregnancy. Ritualistic murder. Some guy who looks like the Prowler in camo killing teens. College problems. Will I get into college? Will I go to the same college as my boyfriend? Detective murder mystery. The gang. Drugs. Blackmail murder. Don't kill Vicky till she's 18. Whoopsie. High school quarterback. Revenge. Vegetable grandma murder. Murder framing murderer. All cops are bad. The end.
It is. That's pretty accurate. And this is one of those movies. Okay, so I started watching it. It was on Tubi. And if we haven't said it enough, we should be sponsored by Tubi. I think Tubi is the best streaming service for the type of movie that I usually want to watch. It's not like I don't go there every time, but chances are I'm going to watch Tubi at some point every day. The poster for this is a woman being strangled by a majorette baton, by a man behind her holding it up to her neck. That's the image of this. After doing some digging, and now I've bought the Blu-ray, obviously, and watched the special features, the original image was a skeleton twirling the baton, which is a pretty great image.
What's that other VHS the high school murder one where it's a skeleton
the
with
cheerleader?
Yeah.
I think Return to Horror High.
Yeah, something like that.
It's a great image, and in the special features, numerous people involved with the production, the writers and the director, say, I just thought this would be a great movie because of that poster. Like, there's no way people are not going to see the movie because of that poster, which is absolutely true. And that sort of marketing and thought continues to this day, right, Marvel? But the movie starts with a like a Prowler, like a Michael Myers, someone is killing off these majorettes.
Yeah.
Very formulaic, nothing to distinguish it from any other movie other than it's fucking terrible. And it's focusing specifically on majorettes. At one point, the movie takes such a huge, I won't even say left turn, it just gets derailed. I was watching it while I was doing comic book art homework and stuff like that on my computer. And I looked up and I was like, did Tubi change the movie? Like, did something happen? Because there are no remnants of the previous film. Even like the quote unquote main characters are not in it for a minute.
It's like once they kill off enough majorettes, like who's left? We forgot. So we're going to focus on the quarterback of the football team. Wait, he's a character in this movie? What? And he goes on a Rambo killing rampage to kill all the drug dealers. That wasn't
We're
what this
not
movie
involved in the movie until 2/3 of the way through.
No, what the fuck? It's a great rampage, by the way. I mean,
I
job.
agree.
But
And
I'm like watching this. I'm like,
a lot of reviews are hating on that rampage, saying that it's like trauma style and it's very. But it's like, first of all, it's not Rambo, but it's fucking great. It's some high school kid with an unexplained M16 just shooting up these drug guys for revenge.
Dealers.
It's fucking great.
For revenge that you're like, wait, I thought this movie was about majorettes. Why is it the high school, the head of the high school football team now? Goofy as shit. We'll get into the gang in a second. So yeah, it opens up and first we have the majorettes and then they go to shower and we get some booze.
Oh wait,
right
can we talk about how it opens though? Because
not yet. Hold on. They get to the shower. They get to the shower and they're showering and then somebody's peeping on them. So right off the bat, you're like, peeping Tom movie. I get it. Creepy.
Right.
Nope.
We've seen this.
That's not what that's about. Immediately, like, this creepy, like, Forrest Gump guy is the peeping Tom, but he's not the murderer. And you're like, why does he have to be a peeping Tom? Why does that have anything to do with it? Why is he in this movie? They keep cutting back to him doing creepy shit. It's so fucked up. So you want to talk about the opening, like the titles? You like the titles?
Yeah. It opens with all these majorettes. None of them have a baton. In the entire 78-minute feeling sequence of them dancing during a photo shoot.
It's like a photo shoot, yeah.
And they're all dancing against these bleachers, and one girl will come up at a time for her like spotlight, and there's a nerdy guy taking pictures of them. I don't know how close you watched it, but I was watching it closely. There's like 10 of them. And it looks like they are less prepared as they go down the line.
It's like, oh, damn, she took my dance move.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, she took my
girls
pose.
who go up, and it's like they didn't even know that they were supposed to be dancing.
Oh, wait,
and
I'm supposed to do some moves?
Yeah. And they're like, a couple girls they're not great, but like some dances. A couple girls just do what I can only describe as moving their bodies because I got to give them credit. They did do that. But it was not like in any sort of timed motions or
I put on
sexy.
Dr. Dre's 2001 to listen to on vinyl because we're that cool.
Wow.
Listen, because I wanted to listen to Forgot About Dre and Next Episode. And Sammy's like dancing, just like dancing to it. She's just bouncing up and down, flailing her arms. It was kind of like that.
But less coordinated, right? They have no batons at all. And they're dancing, and it gets worse and worse and worse. Come to find out, and this is from watching the special features on the Blu-ray, all those girls, none of them were dancers, but one of the guys in production was married to a dance coach. She coached them, and the director got them all drunk before the shoot so that they would loosen up. And it literally is like, I wrote that essentially in my notes, and then I saw that, and I just underlined the word drunk. Because it was like...
Here's my assessment of the baton
then they
situation.
walk into the locker room
hold on.
with their batons.
Here's my assessment of the baton situation in this fucking thing. The movie, I had to guess what a majorette was because the movie didn't seem like they ordered batons for their majorettes, but the batons didn't come in until the end of shooting the movie because the only time I see them with batons is like a third into the film, and then at the very end they had some batons. But like for most of the movie, these people who are majorettes, who are the people who have the batons,
featured.
They don't have batons.
They
don't
have
do
them
anything.
At the end of this number, there's an establishing shot of the locker room, and the girls walk in, and they all have their batons, but they didn't use them in this entire shitty ass dance
because they don't know how. The budget was gone. Ugh.
You got some good, good. I think there's good boob shots throughout. I've read a lot of reviews about that.
Good in
about
quotes.
These
It's like raw
20 and
force
30 year
level
old,
good.
20 and 30 year old high school seniors.
Yes, I know.
With their mommy mammaries.
Just ridiculous. So yeah, we get the peeping Tom, who is obviously the creepy janitor, who's like something's wrong with him. He's like simple or something. He's like Forrest Gump style. And he's like taking pictures, and you're like, oh, that's creepy. Well, that's what this movie's going to be about, right? No. Then we cut to like this creepy nurse who's like pushing around.
German nurse.
Yeah, German nurse who's pushing around this old lady who is basically a vegetable. Like she doesn't talk in the whole movie. She doesn't respond. She doesn't even blink. She just sits there.
And she's always smirking. She has that like, I'm in a movie.
I'm in a movie.
Even when she's dead. It's
yeah. And the German nurse is just talking mad shit to her. When you die, I'm going to sell your shit in like a creepy German accent. And she's like, I can't wait to murder you and steal your fucking money. And you're like, wait, is this what this movie's about? And then she's like, my son has a dark room in the basement. And you're like, wait, her son's the creepy janitor? What? Mm-hmm. Okay. So they set up this thing where like this old lady has a lot of money and the German nurse wants to steal it from her. Okay, is that what this movie's about? No, not even close. Not about a peeping Tom, not about murder nurse, not about vegetable grandma. Just
you want to say that like peeping Tom may have been a like a red herring. Like it's one of, I mean, you very often in a high school movie have a creepy janitor character and they want you to think, could it be him?
The movie is so full. The movie is actually, I think, smarter than it even pulls off because they're trying to infuse red herrings, but they don't know how to set up a red herring. They're like, wouldn't it be cool if this guy was a red herring? Wouldn't it be cool if we wonder if it's that guy? Ooh, wouldn't it, like the whodunit is
you don't even have time to wonder if it could be somebody because they're already throwing something else in your face. And then it gets to the point where you're like, this has absolutely nothing to do with the hooded killer who's killing people. Like, there's no way that this plot could be tied into that plot other than they're in the same
town
universe. Yeah. Like,
normally a slasher film is all about the whodunit. This movie didn't know how to do it. It did not know how to. It was almost like
they were unclear. You got the first. So after a minute, the first scene, you get what I thought was the most attractive of the cheerleaders, who's played by a mail order Russian bride, I'm pretty sure. She goes on a date with the nerdy photographer. And the whole time she's like, you're really attractive. And he's like, oh, yeah, but I'm a nerd and I would have never thought. And she's like, no, I like it. And he's like, really? And they're at like Lover's Lane in their car.
He's like, I thought we would go to a movie. And she goes, pretend we're at a movie.
Yeah. Put your arm around me and I'm scared.
Yeah.
And you're like, this nerdy guy like doesn't know what to do about it. Then she reveals I can't do this. Yeah. He's like, what's the matter? And she's like, I was going to make it. I'm pregnant and I was going to make it with you and say you were the father.
And he's like,
I can't
what?
do it.
And she's like, but it's Mace Jackson's baby. He's like, Mace Jackson, the biggest dope dealer in all the school. And she's like, yeah, he wants me to get an abortion. This scene goes on for a while and tells me more about Mace Jackson than any of the characters in the scene. What the fuck? I'm like, well, and they're like, he's a bad dude. And she's like, I know he wants me to get an abortion. I'm like, Mace Jackson wants abortions. And I know more about Mace Jackson now than any of these. I don't even know their names. I don't know the photographer's name. She says it a couple times, but I don't know who they are as characters. I just know
that's the thing. You don't know them. It's like if I go to a dinner party at your house and your friends get into an argument and I'm like there, where do I go? I don't know any of them. I can't take a side. I don't know who to root for. I have no horse in the race because I don't know any of these people.
Yeah, but you know that Mace Jackson's an asshole and wants abortions. So
yeah, but I know he's a fertile asshole. Yeah. That's for sure.
We haven't even met Mace Jackson yet, and we know more about him than any character, except maybe the grandma who has the money. Any character in this movie.
Spoiler alert, I fucking love Mace Jackson. He is maybe my favorite part of this entire movie, but we'll get to that. Yeah! If you're not watching the YouTube, you need to, because Ruby just captured Mace Jackson pretty well.
We'll tease it.
We'll get there. Okay, tease him.
Mace Jackson at any moment is going to start snapping and breaking into dance.
Yeah,
he is
that
one
kind of dope dealer.
He is one like note drop away, like a piano chord away from just breaking into dance. He wants to dance so bad and never gets to.
His education is equal parts from the street and from theater camp, right?
His whole troop. And again, it's like this is. We'll get into it. Yeah, we'll get into it. It is.
They're having this really important conversation in the car, and they hear a noise.
It's dense because it's like, wow, she was going to like honeypot him into caring for her child. That's a pretty steep order movie.
Big
Holy
thing,
shit!
Right?
Yeah.
Put that halfway through the movie when I know who these people are, so I have some sort of stake.
No,
I don't really feel sorry for him because I don't know him, and I don't really care about her. All I know from her is that she's a little promiscuous and a little bit duplicitous, that she's going to trick this guy, but then at the end she says she's not going to.
The look on his face too is like
they're dead in 4 minutes, right?
Yeah, he's freaking out. He's like, should we go get like a hot dog or something? Because like I guess the date's
this
blown.
Is still the best date I've ever been on.
Yeah. So suddenly a Prowler ripoff shows up and starts stabbing him, and he literally looks like the Prowler.
He's got like a Jason 2 pillowcase on his head and like
camo pillowcase. It's camo.
Yeah, but it's like it's literally head to toe covered in camo.
Yep.
And he's got a hunting knife, and he jumps up on the roof of their car and stabs through the canvas roof and cuts across. He pulls the boyfriend out and slits his throat.
Bah.
He chases her. She looks like she hits him.
Stab me. Yep.
She gets him. She gets away. He ends up catching her, stabs her, and slits her throat. After she revealed that she was pregnant. So this movie has some balls that, okay, we're killing a pregnant woman, and like that's okay. That's interesting.
In some states, that's double murder.
What in your mind in that scene, and specifically with this camo killer, what is the weirdest and best part for you? Because for me, there's one part that stands way the fuck out.
Are you talking about the transition to the next scene? Or are you talking about how the whole time? The thing I'm thinking he's just a fucking Prowler ripoff, or the fact that his knife has the like cut out half moon in it most of the time.
I did notice that too. He's got, for those of you in the know of the film business, sometimes we take a prop knife and cut out a semicircle. That way, when you hold it against an arm or a neck or a head or whatever, it looks like it's embedded in. The trick of that is you don't let the audience see that there's a hole in the weapon, and anytime you pull it off of the skin, you're supposed to cut away.
Not only do they not do
it does not do that. Gall and the balls not to do that every time, and sometimes just shows you it's a fake knife. No, my thing is that every time you see this killer, including later once we know who it is under the suit, and we see him without the suit, you hear every time he kills. And
in slow motion. He screams in slow motion.
It is unclear whether you are supposed to think that is the man in the suit yelling, that it is some sort of supernatural thing, or that it is like a device, like a thematic element added to the soundtrack. But it is very jarring because it like, in no way does it make any sort of sense in the dimension that we all currently live in.
Yeah. Like in Star Wars, when Darth Vader comes on, they play the Imperial March. Dun, 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 dun. You're like, here come the bad guys. This guy's like, roar. You're like, is he pretending to be Godzilla?
Yeah. Like, is the killer saying that with his mouth? Or is that like an
soundtrack?
Element of, yeah. And it's very unclear. And no joke, later on, you find out who the killer is, and the killer kills somebody without, like, in his normal civilian clothes. And when he kills them, that is still there, and he's not moving his mouth. So that answers that question. But for the first 4 times, you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Here's what I have written in my notes. The scene, the scream, the Prowler want a bean.
Well, you know, it is very Prowler-ish, I think. I think that's very fair. However, I think it's only Prowler-ish because it's a military aesthetic, right? Like
camo to camo. And he stabs like people, yeah.
Yeah, and I think if he had any other suit on, would you think it was Prowler? Unless it was the Prowler from
no,
Spider-Man.
I mean, because the Prowler, in the movie The Prowler, it's a guy in full camo, and that's it.
Did I tell you that when I used to see that video case as a kid, I used to always think that was like a giant insectoid creature?
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Right? I did see
So when he's killing this woman, he takes her to the water and starts to like put her in the water backwards, and it's very reminiscent of a baptism, and it literally cuts between the dead body going underwater and a little girl being baptized underwater. And I was like, that's kind of cool. That's a little high art. Good job, guys. That's like a 5 easy pieces edit right there.
It's 5 easy pieces what E.T. used to eat.
Reese's Pieces. Yeah, that's a film school reference for you guys.
But did you think that was that like I thought it's presented almost as a flashback that she may be having.
And I thought that was cooler than
right?
then it cuts to this girl being baptized that you're like, oh, good. Do we get to see this whole scene? Does this have to do anything with the movie? Do we follow this girl around anymore? Is she important to the movie? Is there anything? Well, the person doing the baptism is Johnny from Night of the Living Dead, but who cares? Like, who cares?
And he is a crazy, over-the-top preacher who... I'll talk about acting things in a second. He's baptizing this little actress who actually is the director's daughter, like literally. And I guess it's a good time to say this now too. This movie, and I guess when you're making indies back in the 70s, and the 70s and 80s, I guess this is 86. This was probably more common, but it definitely is one of those like. The makeup girl was also one of the majorettes, and the majorette in this one was also the set person on Flesh Eaters, and in it was one of those like everybody kind of did a bunch of different things on it.
Sure.
Same with Night of the Living Dead and that crew, which I guess makes sense. So, but yeah, this crazy preacher, and I think this is one of those scenes that if you talk to the filmmaker, they're like, what we were trying to do by this scene was kind of show the duality between, and you're like, then why didn't you show the duality? All you did was it like cut from one thing to another, and I'm supposed to make the jump that's like this because of this and this and this.
My favorite part of the scene, so we see like some townsfolk there watching this baptism. They're super amped. They're all singing like "Bathe him in the river," whatever. You know, they're singing some baptism song. The sheriff's there, and one of his little sheriff lackeys shows up, and he's like, "Oh, hey, boss."
They call them deputies, but yeah, sheriff
deputies.
lackeys.
He's like, "Hey, we got a couple of murders on our hands," and the guy's like, oh shit, and walks off with him. When the deputy comes up and says, we got a couple of murders on his hands, the woman next to him obviously hears and just is like, wait, what? Like she wasn't aware of what the line was going to be. and then like everybody else is singing and she comes back into the song and all the words are messed up. Like she's obviously not singing the right words anymore. And she's just
I'm
like,
going to say that was probably like they stole that shot gorilla style and they just like ran into an actual baptism. And then everyone just didn't, no one said shit because he was dressed like a sheriff.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to say, why are you here?
That actually got a couple of rewinds just to see her face reaction. Whoa, a couple of murders.
I know what I'm doing right after we finish this episode then.
It cracks me up because it's not like a fearful response, but it's just like, oh, people are talking now. And then she's like, can't sing the song right afterwards, which cracks me the fuck up. So then we cut to our new protagonists in the film. It's this John Holmes looking motherfucking detective who's been banging the majorette's like coach, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you know, they're in bed, obviously post-coital, and suddenly she's like, you don't believe in God, do you? And they have this really heavy God conversation.
But you don't know them, and that's the best part is like there was no scene before this where you even see them. You're just like, who are these people? And I'm catching them now in a very after intimate moment, about to have an intimate, important conversation, and you don't know anything about them. It's one of those things that is so fucking jarring when you watch it. It's almost like Tommy Wiseau filmmaking where you're like, why would you do this to the people who were watching your movie? It just takes you out of everything.
And now again, I know more about the people in this scene than anybody else in the movie. Okay, are they our main characters? Nope. What? So I know that this cop is like a crisis of faith sort of atheist, but he doesn't really know what he believes in, but she believes in. They met at church because they're the godparents to her daughter at their baptism. Like, I know all about where they met, what they believe in, their ethos. I know more about them than like some girls I've dated in the past. But these fuckers.
Certainly like deeper commerce. If you know what it's like if you've seen Birdemic, right?
Yeah.
The director of that has these characters and these scenes that are only there to make some point that he wants. Yeah. Like he makes a point, a very heavy-handed point about the importance of solar power. He makes a very heavy-handed point about spruce bark beetles, and how they're destroying the environment because of global warming. But like a character literally will literally pops into the shot and is like, spruce bark beetles do this, and the main characters out of nowhere are just like, why do they do that? And he's like, because of this. And then the scene just ends. They walk away from each other. And you know that he did that because he wanted those lines in the movie. This movie, Majorettes, has scenes like that.
Yeah.
But there's no point. It just was a scene that has no context. It doesn't bleed into anything that has happened. And it doesn't tie to anything that happens later. It's just like they were like, should we have them talk about God after fucking? And you're like, I guess.
You know you've been fucked so good when you're having existential moments where you're like, is there a God? Because right now you fucked me so good, I don't even know if God's real. People would be like, normally we'd think the opposite, where you're like, there must be a God if I got fucked that good. And he's like, nope. It like went full circle. I was like, she must be an angel. Wait, angels aren't real.
An atheist.
Yeah, you banged me into an atheist. That's some fucking real sex right there, man.
So, you know, she is okay as an actress, but he's one of those. Wait,
that's my line right here. He delivers lines like a real human in quotes.
Yes, that's the thing. Is it's almost like you know, you imagine them sitting in a theater, and he walked up, and he's like, "I am here to be in the movie," and they're like, "Okay." You know, give us your reading. And he's like, Romeo, Romeo, where art thou, Romeo? And they're like, you're hired, bro. That was Juliet's part, but you're hired.
They cut to him going to meet the sheriff and being like, looks like a couple of murders happened here. I hope we can catch him again so that we can catch him. And they're like, you hope another murder happens? Sometimes that's the best way to catch somebody. It's just like
it really, and you want to see like you want to go have lunch with that guy because you want to see, is that just how he talks, or when the cameras roll he can't act human? Like, it's one thing if you're like, that's not how a detective would talk, but you're like, that's not how people who exist move.
Oh,
come
on,
like,
Matt. You know this is how people talk when they have things to say about God and murders and stuff.
And I got it. Like, there's a lot of movies like on Prime and stuff now that have that as like pretty much all the acting. But there's a certain special in my, like, I don't know why, but in my heart, 70s and 80s, maybe it's just the fucking hair and mustache just complete that overall stupidity look. But like, you're like, again, it's still a mystery science theater line. It's like, oh, how you've been human long? And it's like, no, this was his first week. And I wrote here, acting ranges from people who can barely pass as people to cartoony trauma characters to just flat out bored. And there's 2 or 3 people, including the sheriff, who is a very important role as the movie goes on. He seems bored. Like, he seems like his mom made him be in the movie, and he's like, fine. Okay, I'm here. And like, can we say it? Spoiler alert. I mean, we could jump out of order about the sheriff.
Wait. You're good. No. Let's get to it. We'll get to it. The
sheriff is very important, and he has some very important, crucial scenes that should have some level of human emotion. And it's not that you don't buy him as a human. He just doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, this is that reveal. Okay, I will handle the reveal. And you're like,
so now I'm thinking, okay, the detective's going to solve the crime, right? Nope, we're cutting back to the Majorettes. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I guess it is their movie, so we better talk to them. So we got the Majorettes. We have the creepy peeping Tom. He's up in the stands looking at them with binoculars when suddenly the gang shows up.
Yeah.
It's Mace Jackson, and he shows up, and yeah, they should be snapping. They're slinking around. They are cartoon characters of a gang. Like, somebody's like, I've seen motorcycles.
Well, to be fair, they're cartoon characters of 6 different gangs with one member from each in this gang.
Yeah.
There was no dress code in Mace Jackson's gang.
You have Mace Jackson himself, the leader of the gang, is from West Side Story or Cats. I don't know which. Like, if he put on enough eyeliner, he could be in Cats, because he's slinky at any moment. He's just like, he gestures a lot at any moment. I think he wants to like snap and dance. We have a guy dressed as a Confederate biker. Mm-hmm. Who has like old-fashioned pistols and like Johnny Rebel flags on his hat and jacket? Okay, sure. that's a different gang.
One of those.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, would he be in the same gang as the Latino dancing gang member? Okay, all right.
Well, who else would have him, right? Like
then we have a fucking like 1%er like Sons of Anarchy gang member with a big beard and like a vest, and it's like Devil's Sons on the back and like all the patches, and you're like, okay, well. I think that's he's like a Hell's Angel. That seems like a different gang. And then we have like regular
a greaser, right?
Greaser guy,
a plain white t-shirt, jeans, and a like a leather vest.
But they come up and they're talking to the creepy janitor guy and like, you owe me $150, brother, for all those drugs I sold you. I'm like, wait, drugs? Is that what this movie's about? Nope. And he's like, well, I got $83. And they're like, that's barely half. I'm like, actually, that's over half, but okay.
They're only in high school. And clearly, Mace Jackson was not attending classes, right?
Was the rest of his gang in high school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No fucking way. Also, they go to a bar like an impromptu strip club.
Impromptu stripper. Yeah, like that girl was like, is everyone cool if I just show my tits and play with a snake? And they were like, yeah, let us just put some Christmas lights on the floor. And you can
put some Christmas lights on the floor. They're like, so we need a restaurant that also doubles as a strip club. And like, can we put some Christmas lights on the ground? That sure reads strip club to me. Done and done. What the fuck was so this gang is ridiculous and everybody's super dramatic. God damn it, you better have the money next week or you'll be sorry. Okay, I'll get you the money. And like the creepy peeping Tom guy, like I said, he kind of talks like Forrest Gump, where he's like, well, and like just something's off with him.
And they're like, they really are leaning on him on these bleachers while he's peeping at the girls dancing and shit. And he's not that like he's scared of them, but not scared enough to warrant their bulliness, right? Like
they
really,
pull a knife on him,
really on him, and he's like, "Okay, I'll give you the money. Like it's no big deal." And he's like, "I'll give you the money. Don't tell my mom." And they're like, "Okay,
all right, we'll see you next week,
Thursday."
they
make it Tuesday,
and they stomp off and like snap and like stop snapping. I told you stop. Sorry, I can't help you.
Then you like the audience looks at itself. Was like, was that Mace Jackson, the guy, the pregnancy guy?
Yeah, was that abortion dude? What's going on?
Matter? Like, do I have to remember what I just saw? It's almost like you want to raise your hand, ask the teacher, like, is that going to be on the test?
Yeah.
Like, is Mace Jackson and that guy's money problems going to be related to the fucking camo killer who's killing the Majorettes?
Because at this point, I want to forget all of them. But but then I'm also like, is he going to be the killer? Because you really want me to think that he's the killer because he's like, fuck those Majorette sluts. Like he's just so over the top evil. Anyway, we go down to the field and we meet the Majorettes again, and they're like, and we meet the captain of the football team. He's like, hey, I'm dating one of these girls. And you're like, okay. And they're like, what are you guys doing after college? I don't even know if I can afford to go to college. Hey, don't say that. I can help you with some assistance programs if you come to my office later. And they have a heavy conversation that like, wait, is that what this movie's about? Is it about getting into college?
It's the captain quarterback, the star quarterback. They keep calling him that. Yeah. The star quarterback and the majorette, the hot item of the high school, and the majorette's coach, and also their other friend who's a majorette. And she just stands there.
She keeps looking like she wants to say something, but never says anything. She's like,
no, because why would she? Because she's stuck at that dinner party, just like we are. And the majorette is like, the majorette who's dating the guy is like, I don't know. He's going to probably find some other in front of him. He's going to find some new girl in college. And she's like, well, you still have another year. Don't even worry about it. Well, I don't know if I could go to college. Oh, you could apply for federal loans and student loans if you come to my office. And you're like, why are you? Is this related to anything?
It's like, I've been to counseling sessions and they are boring. They're like so boring. I don't need to hear one in a movie.
But why would this happen on the field? Why do we need to see it? And there's this extra girl just standing there for no reason, watching this.
And then she keeps trying to jump in the conversation like, no.
This is one of those scenes that like they finish talking, there's 2 or 3 beats, and it cuts to the next scene. It doesn't like...
Oh, it cuts to the next scene.
Do you
where
love
they're
the
like,
next scene?
The next scene, they're like, we're going to go hang out in town a little bit. And the next scene, it cuts to them. And the same 3 people, it's the guy, his girlfriend, the captain of the cheerleading, the captain of the football team, the majorette, and one of the other majorette friends. And they're in some sort of like I don't know, diner
50s diner, like
slash
with
grocery
like
store
and stuff. Yeah,
that's badly stocked. There's like one bag of chips on the shelf, and then like a refrigerator right next to the microphone. So the whole time they're having this conversation, like, aren't you worried about the deaths? There was murder, and the whole time it's just like,
I
you're like,
swear
oh my
to
God
that there are two scenes that start in a close up and then pull back. And as they pull back, you can hear better. Like it sounds far away when you're close, and then it pulls back, and it almost sounds like the camera guy and the boom op switched places. Maybe that is what happened, but like for sure, like they're so.
But it's like, okay, you get to a location, you're like, we're going to film here, and they're like, hey guys, the refrigerator sounds like it's dying. It's just like the whole time. Should we just film anywhere else than this? Does it matter where this scene takes place? No, we can film outside of this like grocery store. They can be sitting at a park bench. They could be sitting on the hood of their car. Anywhere but in this noisy ass diner, quote unquote. Where the fuck are you? Where I can hear, like I can
There's a bad motorcycle gang outside though, so maybe there's too many motorcycle bikes.
Yeah. Oh, it's so bad. But in it, we find out that the captain of the cheerleading is like, I saw that woman who got murdered hanging out with Mace Jackson. They're like, what? And it's like, she was crying. I should tell the cops. And like, be careful. He's like, oh, I can take care of myself. Beat. Scene cuts.
Well, and this scene for me is like the one that I would explain why this movie is great. Because here's what I wrote. There's a girl who keeps saying, it feels so weird to be doing stuff now that our friends have been murdered. Because the nerdy guy and the first majorette have been murdered. And after they have this game or something, and the Majorettes coach in the last scene was like, okay, you guys don't have to practice because I know it's weird that, Shelly got killed. And some girl says, it's so weird. And that scene, she's like, it's so weird that we're making college plans and Shelly's dead. Now they're in a diner and the same girl says, it feels weird doing this because Shelly's dead. Then she says that she misses her parents, and it's revealed that their parents died in a car crash. And the girl says she has dreams and can still see the flames, even though I wasn't there, she says. So then you're like, are you sneaking a telekinesis bullshit plot in here? Then the other girl says, she literally says, I keep having these dreams and see the flames, even though I wasn't there. Her friend goes, why do these bad things keep happening to us? Do you have alive parents? Because then you cannot relate to me, my friend. Why do these bad things keep happening to us? Then the other girl who has the dreams about the car crash that she wasn't there for says, oh, my birthday is coming up and you guys should come. Maybe I'll even invite you. Literally, the guy's response to that is, I keep thinking about these murders and I think I know information that the police should know. And you're like, but it is in a way where you're like, well, clearly there was another 45-minute conversation about this girl's birthday party that they've cut for time because no person on earth would answer her thing about going to her birthday with that thing.
Unless he was a man who wasn't paying attention to what his girlfriend was saying. Bingo!
Well, it's also very much one of those things where like multiple times people keep saying, why are you so upset? And the person was just standing there. Like they're walking out and they're like, we're so nervous. And they were just like swinging their arms as they walk down a ramp. And you're like, the person who wrote the dialogue, did they not watch what you were doing? Or did you not read the words to see what your words should be saying as you be doing things? And that's how this whole scene comes across. And he just like walks into this scene, even though he was sitting there the whole time, is like, I know something about those murders that I think I should tell the police. Fuck your birthday party.
Yeah. Also, is there a birthday party in this movie?
Yeah.
Nope.
No, there is. Girls' dead parents never brought up again. I mean, I guess that makes sense a little bit later, but like, we don't need to know about our dreams.
This thing is so full of weird, like heavy shit that you're just like, well, that's interesting, but not important to the movie, is it?
Good thing you spent that time on there.
So then those two girls walk home and they're like, oh man, we should be careful. Oh, blah. Okay, I'm going to go swimming. So the girl goes inside and she goes into the kitchen and all of a sudden her mom says
Sneaks
something.
right up on her.
But basically she's like, boo. And she's like, oh my God. And then they stare at each other for an uncomfortably long beat. And then her mom goes, I didn't mean to startle you. Well, I got to go. Bye.
I have to go. I'm late. Yeah. Very Tommy Wiseau.
Do we ever see the mom again?
No. you
Nope.
don't need- Oh,
So-
you see her when the girl's dead, but
Okay, well, we could get into a very long description.
there is
but
a
for
very
time,
long,
Yeah.
boring, her taking her clothes off and putting on a bathing suit scene.
Yep, and
which
then
is
she goes
not
swimming.
Sexy. It's not interesting. It just takes fucking forever.
Oh,
It's the-
while she's being watched, obviously
right.
watched. Yeah.
And it was the visual equivalent of that scene in the diner where they're just talking and you can barely hear them and it doesn't matter.
So then she gets stabbed by a horrible knife. You can see the half moon in it, cut into it the whole time.
But wait, you're
hold on.
missing a
No,
huge
yeah, we have to.
reveal.
Yeah, we got to. Hold on, we got to keep going. So the most fucked up thing, he stabs her in the pool. She's dead, and then they show the cops there, and then there's this whole thing where it's like the neighbors have come out. But not the adult neighbors, just the children. The crowd of looky-loos who are watching the cops drag this body from the pool and put it into an ambulance, all children. It's a
For real.
bunch of little kids.
I noticed that too.
At
You're
night.
skipping
It's night.
Camo on the diving board though.
We got to keep going, man. It's fine.
Oh, you would have skipped. Camo's laying on the diving board waiting for her. It looks
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And also, it's because it's like, how did you not notice a guy walking into your pool area, climbing onto the diving board and lying down and just waiting for you? Because I would be like in the pool and turn around. There's just a person lying on my diving board. I'd be like, what the fuck, bro?
He's like this. He's laying like this, and she comes up, and you're like, how am I not supposed to laugh at that? All right, so they take the dead body past all the all the fucking kids.
And then we have the director, the writer of the movie is the guy who's there, who's like, I also found something else out about that other girl who died. She's pregnant. And they're like, this changes everything. What? And then they walk away, and you're like, what the fuck? Does this have anything to do with the movie? No.
They also one character cuts him off. He's like, oh, that's good, but I guess I'll just have to go back to that. You're like, that's actually probably a pretty pertinent detail to a murder case that she was 7 weeks pregnant.
Oh, so then we go back to Mace Jackson at a completely different time of day. Who cares? He's at his makeshift low rent strip club, and his creepy Johnny Reb buddy, who's like the Confederate flag dude, is like, check it out. I got this like antique revolver. And they're like, cool, this is going to do some damage. Gah! And but like, he wants to dance the whole time. You know,
And they're like, give him that gun. They were like, wave it around like how like a Broadway star would. And he's like,
yeah. Bang, bang. It makes no sense. It's so silly. He, like, the whole time I said, he's like, this guy is acting his ass off. And he's like high school actor energy. Like the whole time he has this like, I'm in high school, I'm an actor. But he's not. He seems to be a fucking adult. So I don't know what he's supposed to be. Is he supposed to be in school?
well, I mean, to call it what it looks like, he is a very skinny, short, slender, effeminate man trying to act like a tough guy biker and not really pulling it. I mean, I
pulling
guess
it off at all.
I don't even know if we see him on a motorcycle because they have a van. They have a fucking gang van that they just drive around and jump in.
They all dress like motorcycle assholes, but yeah, they ride around in an AT van.
In it because it blows up at the end.
Oh yeah. He actually went on to do a lot of stuff. He actually has a pretty prolific career.
I meant to look that up and see. Let's see.
He actually has a really. Actually, I'm lying to you. He has never done any single thing ever again. Johnny Mace Jackson only did this and this alone.
Is that true?
Yeah, this is it.
I meant to look it up because I expected for sure to see Broadway
in a movie.
There had to have been.
Well, his only film credit. How about that?
Fair.
So they're like, yeah, we need to silence these girls before they tell on me. What? Okay, so now they're going to murder these chicks. Is that what this movie's about?
Oh, and he wants to murder the football guy. He's really into that.
Is that what this movie's about? Sort of.
I know.
Not really. Yeah.
Majorettes and a quarterback.
So, and we keep cutting between this, the creepy voyeur guy. He is like doing shit. He's watching chicks in the shower again. The quarterback's girlfriend is like, goes to shower, and the creepy prowler guy's in the shower next to her. So she walks out, and he's hiding.
It's funny, right? Like I laughed out loud. It's the same thing as him laying on the diving board waiting for her, and it's shot almost like you're supposed to laugh at it.
Yeah, and So he stabs her. It's a pretty decent murder scene. He's stabbing her. She's trying to crawl away. There's blood everywhere. And then one of the other majorettes is like, hey, football captain guy, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, my girlfriend's in the shower. It's been a long time. Will you go help me look? So then they go wander the halls yelling her name over and over again for like 3 minutes. I know that like if I can't find somebody, I say their name multiple times. I never want to see it in a movie. Never, never
You don't
have
have
a
to
movie.
show me them doing it for 3 minutes.
The movie The Prowler, that was its biggest mistake. That 90% of that movie is people being like, Bruce, 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 and you're like, stop it. And
You're
then when
looking for Bruce.
yeah, and then when this Prowler stabs them, you're like, oh, sweet release. Thank you, thank you. Aren't you glad I didn't say banana? It's just like repetitive to the point that you want to kill somebody, and luckily they die. So they go looking, and they go in there and they find the body, and they're like, oh fuck, oh no. So they find the body, and at this point you're like, what is going on? But while the murder was happening, we saw her pull the hood off, and we saw that Peeping Tom got a pic of it, what he looked like. So you're like, oh, okay.
Which is like cool. Okay. I mean, nothing that hasn't been done before, but like, okay, interesting. And it ties some of those threads into a narrative.
So the gang shows up and kidnaps the majorette and the football kid. Meanwhile, the evil nurse is talking shit to Vegetable Granny. She finds the pictures that her son took, who is the janitor, the Peeping Tom janitor, and she looks at one of the pictures, and we're like, dun dun dun, you're supposed to know who this is. I didn't.
Oh, well, the sheriff comes, and the sheriff is like, so you said you got some news about the case?
Yeah.
And he is very disinterested, and I don't know if it was supposed to be a character thing or if the actor just had somewhere else to be that day. But she takes him into the dark room, and she's doing this whole thing, and she reveals, and she shows it to him, and we see this action shot of him strangling, and you're right, I have no idea visually who it is.
It's literally a picture of the sheriff strangling the girl, but I didn't recognize him as the sheriff because every scene he has a hat on and glasses.
And those yellow sunglasses. Yeah.
So
this one he had neither, so...
Yeah, and he has camo on, so I don't know who she's showing him, and he attacks the creepy nurse, and I'm like, oh, does he know who that is? Is he covering up for another person?
Is that his buddy?
It took me 2 more scenes. So then the creepy Peeping Tom son comes in and knocks out the sheriff, and he wakes up and he's like, oh, are you going to turn me in? They're like, no, you're going to help us. You have to kill Vicky, but not before she turns 18, because then we're going to get the money from the grandmother. I'm like, is that what this movie's about? Mm-hmm. No.
This is the plot. For this, they say that if they're not going to turn him in, so now it's in a quick scene, it's revealed that this character that we don't know anything about is killing these little slut teases. We don't know anything else more than that. We don't know why.
Ours. Yeah.
Exactly. He says that, and that's the only motivation he has for what he's doing.
I have to purify them in the waters, and they're like,
that's all we know.
Yeah.
They say if you kill Vicky, who is the main character? ? If you kill her in 8 days, we won't tell anybody. And they explain to him the reason it has to be 8 days is because their parents were rich. Right now, their money is going to the grandma. Oh, no, it's going to the girl. If the girl dies before 18, the money goes to the estate. And they're explaining this to him. You're watching them fucking say this. If she's 18, the money and dies, the money goes to the grandma, and they're going to kill the grandma. So they have this whole huge murder plot that has absolutely nothing to do with what the movie has been about thus far. 0%.
No fucking clue.
But like, okay, cool.
And he's like, yeah, sure. Okay, I'm on board with this.
Yeah, sure.
So we see the detective one last time. He's like, oh my God, Sheriff, you let my suspects go. And he's like, yep. And he's like, you're terrible. That's the last time we see the detective. What? The people who are now the main character, Vicky and the high school football kid, have been kidnapped by the gang.
The gang pulls up in their van.
Their 18 van. Yeah, it's the 18 van.
They throw them back in there, and then they take them to a warehouse.
Yep. Creepy Peeping Tom follows them to the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very, now they've turned the dastardly up to 11. Like, they were a cartoon gang. Now they're going to murder and rape these kids. So it's like, okay.
Well, it's funny that you said these kids because they make it very clear that they're going to murder and rape the girl.
Yeah.
But if I know Mace Jackson like I think I do, I think that QB is getting some too. I think you're right.
It's so fucked up. And they're also like, how old are you? And she's like, 17. They're like, yeah. I was like, oh God, don't know. They made it worse. Anyway, before anything really bad happens, the peeping Tom shows up. He's like, you shouldn't kill those kids. I brought the rest of the money and I got a tire iron. And they're like, put that tire iron down. And they start like fighting. And then the fucking Confederate flag asshole pulls out his like pistol from the Civil War and starts just shooting people randomly. Just shooting people.
Well, wait, no, because they kill Peeping Tom. And it's a nice
bang. He gets shot. Yep.
I have Wild Bunch shootout in my notes. Really good red, Italian red blood shoots out. And then one of the gang members is like, hey, Mace, this is too far. He's a stoolie. You could do what you want to him. But this girl, we got no problem with this girl. So they get into it. They wrestle. Confederate comes to Mace Windu's aid and shoots this other gang member. Yeah. And then just a shootout happens.
Everyone's getting shot.
Shot everywhere.
Vicky gets shot, and I was like, oh, she had 8 days till her birthday.
Yeah.
And the boyfriend or captain of the football team, he's like, oh, I'm so pissed. Revenge. So now there's like 4 bodies on the ground. Instead of going to the cops, he goes back to his house and gets
we don't know his house because we've never seen it.
Never been there.
He
grabs an
up
M16.
a gun cabinet, grabs an M16,
loads
like
up.
You do.
Yeah, and goes Rambo on their ass. He goes out to their fucking shitty trailer with hilarious spray paint on it. It's like AC/DC.
666. Yeah.
Satan. No.
Yeah.
And
can you imagine Mace Jackson out there with a can of spray paint? He's like, what should we put on this? Ooh, 666 is devilish.
Yeah.
What about just write the word Satan? Yeah. And they'll know.
What's a devil band? What's a Satan band? AC/DC. Okay. Not Black Sabbath. Not Slayer. AC/DC. The good band, though. So the fucking football kid then goes on this Rambo-style slaughter, blowing up vans.
Yeah.
Blowing up a van.
Takes off his shirt, jams it in the gas tank, lights it on fire, blows up their van. They start running out, and he starts picking them off.
Yeah.
2 of them try to get away in a car. He shoots at them. The car crashes. He shoots the car till it explodes.
Boom.
Shoots a motorcycle. It goes on fire and falls over. A gallon or a 55-gallon drum of explosion falls on it, and it blows up, then blows up the trailer.
Trailer's on fire. Boom, boom, boom.
He shoots all these people. He shoots Mace in the leg, but Mace hobbles to the woods, right?
So then they go off in the woods, and it's like a grand standoff where Mace is like, you got me. You can do it. Shoot me. You got me. Shoot me.
No,
I don't care.
Say shoot me. He says, take me in. I didn't kill anybody. It's over. Yeah. You got me.
But it's like so dramatic. He's on his knees.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's like wiggling.
Take me in or do something else to me. And then he's like, no, bam, shoots him. And it's like,
says, yeah, I got you. And then shoots him from the hip, just blows him away. He's killed 5 or 6 people in the last 5 minutes, shirtless.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, man. He's breathing heavy, and he's covered in blood.
So now at this point, you have 4 minutes left in the movie, right? And I wonder to myself, a teenage guy running through the word shirtless with an M16. What is this movie about? And then I wrote, Majorettes is a movie that 2/3 of the way in sees a shiny object and walks away from its own plot. Because it's like, he's running around with an M16. There was a Prowler guy before.
What happened to the Prowler guy?
And it's not even resolved, right?
And when I get to, I'm like, is this what the movie is going to end on? Him murdering the gang members? He didn't even kill the killer. Where's the Prowler guy? So then it cuts to the basement where the German lady's down there, and she's like, ha ha ha, I'm going to kill this old lady. She kills the old lady. Doesn't matter, but she's mad about everything. And then the sheriff shows up and hangs her and stages it to look like a suicide, and then leaves the Prowler clothes. And you're like, yes, people are going to believe that you, old granny nurse, killed all these people. But he's like, ha ha ha, everyone will think it's you.
But he has everything folded in a bundle, which is my favorite. That is my second favorite part. Did you see what he hung her from?
Little rope, right?
An eye hook that's about the size of my pinky.
Yeah,
like literally, that's what they show a rope going over that.
I literally
one-handed hoists her up.
I have a plant on my porch that can't hang from one of those things.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, I'm no Bob the Builder, but I know damn well that eye hook would not hold that German nurse.
Hangs her, says some bullshit, and then he leaves.
And while he's hanging her, you hear, and that's the part that I was like, oh, so it's like a theme? That's his Imperial March?
That's his theme. So a murderer frames the murderer. Because she's a murderer too. She killed the old granny lady, and she's on board with all this murder, but like he frames her, and then he walks away. We leave with this frame hanging her. I was like, is this how this movie's going to end? But then it cuts to one last majorette teaching little kids to be majorettes. And then like as we pull back, we see him standing, watching them, and it pushes in on him looking real menacing. And I was like,
there's a gate, and he's standing behind the gate with his police car. And he's like 5 feet from them. And it's like, it doesn't matter where they are. But that geography of that shot makes absolutely no sense. Where they would be, why nobody would. And he looks super evil / creepy just standing there watching. Like, there's a little girl there who's got to be like 4. Yeah. And maybe the oldest girl there is like 8.
Yeah, but and the teenager teaching them to be majorettes.
And they're shaking their little, at least the butts are facing away from us. But it is like more little girl dancing than I'd care to see. And I'm not going to say I relate to the sheriff's implied future actions against them, but like, I don't really want to see that. But it ends with him scoping out these would-be victims, right?
Future victims. Yeah, the future's being trained. And I'm like, that's an interesting ending, but also you brought it full circle like an hour and a half too late, guys. So
well, it's like, I mean, the whole Mace Jackson and shirtless machine gun assault, that has absolutely nothing to do with the first hour of the movie. It's got the same characters, but there's nothing, think about it, literally nothing in that entire thing has to do with the camo killer. Not a single thing. And that's the point where I was doing my homework and playing on eBay and whatever, and I looked up and I was like, wait, how did I get here? The first time I watched it, I was like, how did this get from one thing? And it was one of those, like, I had to rewind it twice to be like, oh, okay, so it wasn't me. It's not that I don't understand.
It makes no fucking sense. It is so wild because, movie, you could have been way simpler. An angry sheriff kills majorettes. They find out it's the sheriff at the end of the movie. Like, you could have been more simple and pulled this off better. Instead, you threw everything at it. We had a gang. We had drugs. We had a plot to get a trust fund away from a vegetable granny who smiles a lot. Like,
apparently in the book, and it's weird that this was based on a novel. You don't usually have slasher movies based on novels.
Right.
But apparently in the novel, it was the main character, quote unquote, girl. I think her name is Vicky. It was her father turned out to be the killer. So says the special features, but they didn't explain why.
John A. Russo wrote the novel and the screenplay, so he didn't even base it off his own thing. He's like, I'm going to make it more confusing.
Well, they punched it up to make it more visual for the movie and make some of the kills better and stuff. And also the director was very clear that, like, sometimes you get to a location and you're just like, I'm not going to be able to shoot what's on this page. I'm just going to do whatever I feel like because it's better. And I mean, when you watch that movie, there certainly is a lot of that going on, right? There's a lot of that feeling.
Sis, boom, blood, you're dead.
It's great. It's one of those movies. I can't wait till fucking pandemic is over so I can have people come over here and we could do Shitty Movie Sunday with that, because I had so much trouble watching it last night because half of me is just so fucking gobsmacked that I can't make jokes. I just have to watch what's happening. But the other half is yelling at the screen all these funny fucking things that my ad libs and my riffing, because it's just gold either way. Just shut up and watch it or rip it apart. It's enjoyable both ways.
It is unbelievable. Absolutely one of the worst films I've ever seen. And I applaud you for spending money on a Blu-ray for it.
$14, absolutely. I wish it had more special features, but I have to own this because I was like, what if Tubi takes it down? I would be heartbroken.
I would be
right?
Said nobody ever about this movie. You know what? You should tell John A. Russo and S. William Heinzman how much this meant to you because they have never heard this praise about this film ever in their life. Even from their fucking mother, who was probably in the movie.
I think S. William Heisman, she was probably the smiley woman, the smiley old grandma.
Yeah. And she was probably like, you tried your best, son, but did you like the movie, Mom? I made a movie. Do you like it? Did I do a good? You tried your best, honey. That's all that matters.
You made that movie.
You did make a movie. Your name's on it and everything.
And it was called, in Europe, it was called One by One. One by One? One by One. Because there's at least 2 or 3 lines in the movie where they say like he's killing us one by one or we're getting killed one by one. So the trailer for that and the name over, because I guess they don't have majorettes over there, so they're like majorettes didn't translate to Europe.
Yeah, well,
they didn't have majorettes in this movie. To be fair,
I think you figured it out pretty quick. Yeah, exactly. Their budget, unless they were drunk, wasn't really much for majorettes.
Well, it's so funny because you could have just made. I mean, in the special features, they keep saying, all the cheerleader movies, and there are plenty of high school and cheerleader slasher movies. And they were like, we wanted to be different, so we did majorettes. Okay, fine. But why did you go so far out of the formulaic slasher movie?
And IMDb has no trivia other than
correct
these other actors. Yeah, these other people who are also in Night of the Living Dead, which I was like, cool, but what a dumb fucking movie. But also like gold shitty movie, like gold star shitty movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rarely do we ever do a full episode on a shitty movie like this. So
you guys know, Rumi was so hesitant to do that until this morning. And then this morning he was like, no. And that gold is the word you wrote. You wrote, no, this movie is gold. We need to do an episode about that. I was so happy because I've been trying to get you to watch this for like a month or two, right?
Gold standard. Well, so, it's hard for me to watch movies. I barely have time. I'm working my ass off. I got a kid. Usually when I have time, I have to get my wife on board with what we're watching. So, we're watching Boba Fett. We're watching some,
wow.
It's fine.
It is fine, but it's the Book of Boring Fett. He's just like, oh, I got a Rancor and nothing happened. Oh, I got my fucking biker gang and nothing happened. Yeah,
so far the best episode is the Mandalorian episode and not that.
And even that was not that great.
It was fine.
It was like, what's that movie? What's the movie? The one movie in the franchise everyone hates? Let's bring a ship back from that one. All right.
It's fine. Anyway.
Did Kate watch Majorettes with you?
Yes, she did.
What was her thought?
She fucking hated it. She thought it sucked. So it was a favor. It was really a favor. I was like, I got to watch it for the podcast. This is homework. And she was like, oh, but she laughed at it and she had a lot of good jokes. I wrote down some of her good jokes too. So we did have a good time making fun of it. Did
you say some of Kate's jokes?
Yeah. Some of them were in there. But most of them were just like, oh my God, these people don't know their lines. And oh my God, she's like, why is it so fucking loud in this scene? Are they next to a refrigerator that's on? Like, just so ridiculous. It was just ridiculous.
Guys, check out, today is the last day of January 30th, almost last day in January. Is that really right? Wow.
Yeah, dude.
It is, the end of January. Check it out on Tubi. Check it out on Tubi. The Majorettes. It is. I mean, I'm telling you, it's worth the watch.
Yeah. No, if you enjoy laughing at garbage, this is gold. Gold star. Shitty movie. Big shout out to everybody who's been hitting us up on social media. I love talking to people about the stuff. I've been watching a lot of Kung Fu lately. I got the Arrow Video Shaw Brothers box set, and I love, like, Shaw Brothers is like my favorite like kind of martial arts movies because they're like just shitty enough but still like fun enough that I'm on board, and some people have been like, yeah, but Bruce Lee's so much better. Not arguing that at all. Right. Yeah, Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan all day are better movies. I mean, even some fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme movies are better movies, better made, better action sequences, but I love me some Shaw Brothers because it's just that like perfect veneer of cheese and like bright red blood. But I watched The Boxer from Shangtung. I cannot believe this movie came out in 1972, that I've never seen this movie, and that there hasn't been anything this badass until like the 2000s in America, where this dude's like fucking up hundreds of guys. They have axes. He's got axes stuck in him, and he's still finding the will to kick their asses. Fucking awesome, dude.
Just they kick their axes.
Yeah, axes with asses. Well, guys, let us know what you've been watching. Do you have a great shitty movie that we should be watching? You got something that you have seen recently? You're like, this fucking sucks, but I bet these idiots will like it.
That should be our side podcast. This fucking sucks, but I bet these idiots would like it.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, that would be fun. Anyway, hit us up. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at LaunchpadPod, on our website, launchpadpod.com. And on YouTube. You know how to find us. All right, Rumi, let's blast this thing off.
Whoosh. This boom ba.
Sis
You're
boom
dead.
ba. You're dead. Sis boom blood.
Sis boom Mace Jackson.
That's what that movie should have been called. Mace
Jump that Mace
Jackson.
Windu.
Sis boom Mace Windu. Oh my God. All right, we're the Rocketeers and we are out.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.